The pouring rain lashed against the pool, reminding me of the night my ex-wife cheated on me. The weather was just like this, when she knelt in the hospital, begging me. Blood dripped onto my shoes. As I turned, I heard her heart-wrenching screams, so similar to her cries the night she aborted the child. And next week, I'm going to collect the keys to our mortgaged marital home, which she put up as collateral. That bay window in the master bedroom, it was the backdrop for their intimate videos. When I went to the bar to pick up Chloe, her face was flushed, and her head rested on Dylan's shoulder. Dylan had his right arm wrapped around her waist, and they were talking intimately. I got out of the car and took Chloe from him, my tone displeased. Chloe and I are getting married soon. I'm here to take her home, so you don't have to trouble yourself. Chloe didn't speak, her eyes fixed on Dylan, full of reluctance. Dylan, however, pinched her cheek. Go on. This time I'm back for good, as if a weight had been lifted. Chloe got into the car first. After she closed the door, Dylan leaned closer to me, and said in a voice only we could hear, "Do you believe me when I say that with just one word, Chloe wouldn't marry you?" I couldn't hold back and punched him squarely on the nose. We immediately got into a brawl. Chloe ran out of the car, shielding Dylan, and scolded me. "Ryan, what's wrong with you? How could you hit someone?" She then turned to Dylan, her face filled with concern. "Are you okay?" Dylan shook his head, a hint of grievance in his voice. "I'm fine. Your boyfriend probably doesn't like seeing us together, which is why he acted impulsively. Perhaps I've missed you too much. Chloe, from now on, we should keep our distance." I pointed a finger at him, furious. "Shut up. What right do you have to tell us what to do?" Chloe, however, impatiently cut me off. "That's enough. Ryan, are you really so petty? I'm taking him to the hospital now. You should reflect on yourself." I touched my bruised lip, which Dylan had hit, and watched in disbelief as Chloe took Dylan into a taxi. She left her own boyfriend and took another man to the hospital. That very night, I received a video, in a dimly lit booth at the bar. Chloe and Dylan were passionately kissing. There was also a message, * your girlfriend's figure is still as good as ever, * my mind went completely blank. Buzzing, the woman I'd cherished for 8 years cheated on me right before our wedding. I called Chloe, but it went straight to voicemail. I paced frantically in the living room, forcing myself to calm down. Dylan was Chloe's first love. He had gone abroad after high school graduation, and they had lost touch since then. Perhaps they were just tipsy and confused. Or maybe it was just a misunderstanding. It was quite laughable, really. Even with the evidence right in front of me, I still wanted to bury my head in the sand, praying it was all a misunderstanding. 8 years had been too beautiful. I couldn't erase all those wonderful memories because of one video. I was born in a rural town after my parents divorced. I lived with my father, and he later remarried, with a stepmother. Going hungry was a common occurrence. When my stepmother was in a bad mood, she often forced me to kneel naked under the scorching midday summer sun. My first meeting with Chloe happened under such circumstances. I hadn't eaten for 2 days then, and after kneeling under the sun for an hour, my face was pale as a ghost. Chloe held an umbrella and stood beside me. I looked up at her, and in that moment, she seemed to have a halo around her head. She was the same age as me, and had come from the city to visit her grandmother in the countryside. She timidly asked my stepmother, "Why are you making him kneel here?" My stepmother said it was because I was disobedient, snuck food, and was an unwanted bastard. Heaven knows. I had been starving for 2 days and just wanted to go to the kitchen to grab a slice of bread to eat. Chloe thought for a moment, then scurried home and ran back. She held a stack of bills of various denominations, and handed them to my stepmother. "Madam, if he's unwanted, then sell him to me. I'll take him. This is all the money I've saved. It's all yours." My stepmother really took the money, though she didn't sell me to Chloe, of course. That very night, I stole that money. It was exactly $500. When my stepmother found out, she whipped me so hard 2 belts broke. I couldn't get out of bed for a week, but I still refused to admit it. Later, I successfully got into college and met Chloe again. She thought it was a coincidence, but she didn't know I had already asked her grandmother about the schools she was applying to. However, she was feeling very down at the time. I asked around and heard that her ex-boyfriend had left without a word. Her friend secretly told me that he had started dating wealthy older women abroad, and had long forgotten about Chloe. So, I became her knight, always protecting her. When we met again, she didn't recognize me. I showed her the treasured $500 bill, but she still looked confused. Just as I was frowning and preparing to leave, she suddenly called out to me, saying that she remembered everything. She wasn't a morning person, so I would buy breakfast and deliver it downstairs. Sometimes I'd buy an extra portion for her roommate, so I could avoid having her roommate bring it to her. Her grades weren't great, so while excelling in my own major, I would also audit her major courses and help her study for final exams. After graduation, she said she wanted to develop her career in our hometown. I resolutely gave up offers from major corporations in New York, and Chicago and followed her back home. Then one day, she got drunk and came to me crying, saying she wanted to be my girlfriend. I didn't think twice, immediately agreeing, too excited to sleep the entire night. Later, she said she wanted to marry me and asked me to take over her family's failing business. So I decisively gave up the job I'd worked hard at for 2 years and took over the Chloe group. She was the light of my youth. I had plucked her from the sky, determined to keep her safe and cherished. Finally, Chloe answered the phone. I suddenly felt apprehensive. Are you still at the hospital? The other end of the line was quiet. She seemed to deliberately lower her voice. Ryan, I'm going on a business trip for a week, to Seaside. I'm leaving now. Before I could react, she hung up. I tried to call back to confirm, but it went straight to voicemail. Seaside, that was a popular tourist destination, a place we had once planned to honeymoon together. Chloe didn't want to work at her family's company, and had found a small firm outside. Her work wasn't demanding, and this was her first business trip, and with Dylan just returning, it was hard not to suspect. I called Chloe's colleague and subtly inquired. She casually said, Chloe said she wasn't feeling well and called in sick. My hands clenched into fists, knuckles turning white. Another lie. How many lies had she told me? Just then, Chloe called me. Why are you calling my colleague? Do you trust me that little? Actually, no. I'm not on a business trip. I just feel too stressed lately, and wanted to go out and relax. Ryan, don't push me too hard. Before I could say anything, Chloe accused me of not trusting her. She wasn't like this before. She used to cling to me, constantly, like any girl deeply in love. Once in college, I suddenly received a call from Chloe's roommate, saying Chloe had gotten into a fight. I rushed over. Their hair was a mess from pulling, and the other girl's head was bleeding. It looked like a fierce battle had just taken place. Chloe saw me and burst into tears, collapsing into my arms. She said you were a poor kid, an unwanted bastard. I just couldn't stand it, so I fought with her. Now she's called the police, and I don't want to go to the police station. Please help me. The other girl was still cursing. What are you faking? You clearly. Chloe shielded me, cutting her off. Don't you dare curse Ryan again. I felt for Chloe, who was crying so hard she could barely breathe, and suggested a solution. How about this? I'll pay extra for her medical expenses, and you don't call the police. We are all classmates. It's better to avoid unnecessary trouble. I paid the girl all the money I'd saved from my part-time job over the past 2 months. This was money I had planned to use for a computer, but Chloe had fought for me, so I had to take responsibility. The girl took the money, gave me a chilling look, and spat out a few words. What a pathetic simp. See? Chloe used to love me wholeheartedly, but Dylan was always the unattainable ideal in her heart. The moment he beckoned, everyone else automatically fell by the wayside. I wondered if she was out with Dylan this time. The thought made my heart skip a beat. Then I suddenly remembered that Chloe loved Facebook. I never used social media before, but Chloe's ID was always one I could remember instantly. Relying on the ID from memory, I quickly found Chloe's Facebook account. 10 minutes earlier, she had posted an update. In a month, I'll be someone else's bride. So before I get married, I've decided to walk all the paths I haven't yet walked. With you, that way, when I come back, every place will hold memories unique to us. Let me be reckless one last time, then I'll dutifully marry him. The accompanying picture showed 2 hands, fingers intertwined. One hand wore the engagement ring I had just bought. The other had a distinctive black tattoo. How ridiculous. How could she think that if she ever looked back, I'd still be waiting right where she left me? It was true that I loved her to the core, but that didn't mean I had no dignity. Suddenly, I found a crumpled piece of paper at the foot of the bed. I picked it up and saw it was a medical report. It was Chloe's. She was already 1 month pregnant. She knew she was pregnant, yet she still went to the bar to drink with Dylan and even secretly went on a trip. Was the youth she wanted to relive going to come at the cost of my child's life? This made me feel utterly disgusted. Just then, my phone suddenly flashed an emergency alert. A 6.5 magnitude earthquake has occurred in Seaside. with severe damage in many areas, on the screen. Chloe and Dylan were being lifted onto stretchers. I flew to Seaside overnight and found the hospital where Chloe had been taken. It was for the child in her belly. After all, it carried my blood, and I couldn't turn a blind eye. The hospital was packed with people injured in the earthquake, but in a corner of the hospital, a girl watched over a man's sickbed, quietly looking at him, as beautiful as a painting. Unfortunately, I became the villain who ruined the scene. I patted Chloe's shoulder. She turned and saw me, her face a look of shock. "Why are you here?" Dylan lay on the hospital bed, his shirt soaked with blood. I stared fixedly at her. "You were pregnant and you didn't tell me. And you came here with him. What kind of person do you take me for?" A flicker of guilt crossed Chloe's eyes. "Ryan, listen to me. There's nothing between him and me. I just wanted to fulfill a dream of mine, to marry you without any regrets." Other patients nearby heard our argument, and started whispering and pointing. "What kind of woman is that? Pregnant and still dating another man? How shameless." "Exactly. That guy is so pitiful. He's been utterly cuckolded, from the looks of it. This guy even came all the way from out of town to find her. So pitiful. Was I pitiful? Yes, I certainly was. The woman I loved wholeheartedly had treated me as a mere plaything. A nurse came over, looking at Chloe. "Are you Dylan's family member?" Chloe glanced at me, then nodded. "Guilty." The nurse continued. "Ryan has lost a lot of blood and needs a transfusion. But he has a rare blood type. We can probably get blood from another blood bank tomorrow. I just wanted to inform the family." Chloe panicked, grabbing the nurse's arm. "Will he be in danger? He's lost so much blood. Can he wait until tomorrow?" The nurse sighed. "The hospital's blood bank has run out. We can only wait until tomorrow. Although he's lost a lot of blood, he should be able to make it through the night." Chloe scolded. "What do you mean, should be fine? If something happens, can your hospital take responsibility?" Then she extended her arm. "My blood type is the same as his. Take mine." I grabbed her shoulders and turned her to face me. "Are you crazy? You are pregnant right now. How can you give him blood?" The nurse said he can wait until tomorrow. Chloe's eyes were red-rimmed as she screamed hysterically at me. "What if? What if something happens to him? Can you take responsibility? If anything happens to him, I'll hate you for life." My voice was hoarse, pleading as I looked at her. "Chloe, you know how much I want to have my own child. Please, don't ruin this. I grew up in a single-parent home, and had always longed for my own family." Chloe knew this better than anyone. She pulled her hand away from mine and said flatly, "I'm sorry, we can have another child. But Dylan, he cannot take any risks." She turned to the nurse. "Take mine. I'll take full responsibility for any consequences." After she left, Dylan, who was lying nearby, opened his eyes. Just with a snap of my fingers, she'll come running back. "Ryan, you are just a simp." How laughable. The sweet moments, the beautiful memories I thought we had, were nothing more than a web of lies she had meticulously woven for me. From our reunion, to falling in love, to staying together, everything had been manipulated by another man. I stood up and dialed a number on my phone. "Mr. Johnson, is your Sherwood branch still looking for people? I'd like to transfer there." The voice on the other end of the line was surprised. "Ryan, you've finally come to your senses. As long as you want to come, the vice president position is always yours." He didn't forget to tease me. "I told you early on that you should start our own business with me. But you insisted on sticking with Chloe's family's failing business. Otherwise, 10 of our companies would have gone public by now." Only after taking over the Chloe Group did I realize the company was already on the verge of bankruptcy. I worked tirelessly, pursuing innovation and development, just to help the Chloe Group barely survive, and managed to get back on its feet. Marcus Johnson was a senior from my college. He had resigned from a foreign company with me back then, and chose to start his own business. He trusted my abilities deeply and had always wanted me to help him. He knew that no matter how much I did at the Chloe Group, I was just an employee, and the Chloe family would never let an outsider gain much. But I had refused back then. Thinking about it now, what a fool I was. I continued. "Mr. Johnson, I also have a favor to ask. Can you help me look into someone?" Dylan's information was quickly delivered to me. He was the illegitimate son of the Miller Group. When his identity was revealed years ago, his mother feared something would happen to him, and sent him out of the country overnight. He had lived a very wild life overseas all these years, a notorious playboy. I heard he even had several children with different women. Now, his father wasn't in good health, and his mother had called him back to fight for the inheritance. He barely had a dime to his name, so he went around scamming people, sweet-talking women into being his kept man. He chose Chloe partly because she had always secretly admired him, but more importantly, he thought Chloe was wealthy. Chloe currently seemed to have some money, but given her capabilities, how long could the Chloe group last in her hands? I suddenly became very curious. How would Dylan treat Chloe if he knew the wealthy woman he'd latched onto would go bankrupt so quickly? If Chloe knew the man she had yearned for all this time was just a kept man, a mere moocher, how amazing would her expression be? Just thinking about it, I couldn't wait to see it. As I was leaving, a metal box clattered to the floor, the perfectly preserved $500 bill scattered across the floor. I picked it up, tore it into shreds, threw it into the trash can, and walked away without looking back. I wanted to punch him, but my arms fell weakly to my sides. I was too tired. Soon, a scream came from the transfusion room. Chloe had a miscarriage. This outcome was expected. Her health wasn't in good condition to begin with, and with her pregnancy, donating blood would inevitably lead to this outcome. I knew it, and she knew it too, but she had still made the choice firmly. Before she came out, I left. I didn't want to stay in such a humiliating place for another moment. Actually, packing my things was quite simple. I wasn't a big spender all these years. My paychecks were always managed by Chloe. While organizing my closet, an old diary fell out from a corner. It seemed quite old. The cover had 4 large characters, *closed journey*. Chloe, Dylan. The first entry was 8 years ago, describing the scene of our reunion. Today I met a boy named Ryan. He reminded me of when I bought him for $500 as a child. Actually, I just thought it was fun at the time, because that's how my mom bought puppies. Although he was annoying, the way he frowned actually looked a bit like Dylan, so I decided to let him keep me company, for some comfort. It felt like my chest had been punched hard. So, what I had thought was my salvation was actually this. She helped me back then just because she thought I was like a dog. Forcing back my nausea, I continued reading. There was a girl who knew Dylan, and said he was an illegitimate son with a questionable reputation, who lived a wild life overseas. It made me so angry I hit her head with a glass. I was terrified. When she started bleeding, I cried and told Ryan that I only hit her because that girl spoke ill of Dylan. I can't believe that idiot actually believed me. He paid for her medical expenses. Later I heard he had no money for food. But what did that have to do with me? He did it willingly. I secretly checked Dylan's Facebook every day. On his birthday, he announced his relationship. I cried for a long time at the bar. When Ryan came to find me, I suddenly thought of playing a trick. If Dylan could find someone else, why couldn't I have some fun with someone too? I proactively approached Ryan and said I wanted to marry him. My dad wasn't feeling well, and someone had to take over the Chloe group. Ryan was the best choice because he loved me unconditionally, and willingly worked for me. I lied, telling him he was the most important person to me, and begged him to help me. As expected, he quickly agreed. Dylan returned. We hugged and kissed in the hotel. He said he didn't want me to get married, and asked me to spend more time with him. I can never refuse his requests. I promised Dylan that I'd be reckless one last time. Dylan is my youth, my dream. Just 1 week, and I'll dutifully go back and marry Ryan. I sent Chloe a message, telling her to move her things out within a week. Her call came quickly. Ryan, are you mad? Please listen to me. You are the one I love. We can have another child. Before she could finish, I hung up. She kept calling, but I was annoyed and blocked her number. Our branch office in Sherwood had just been established, and everything was in its nascent stage. The first week after I arrived was incredibly busy. I practically lived and breathed the company every day, busy with planning, strategizing, and securing investments. Being busy was good, though. It left no room in my mind for other thoughts. Marcus Johnson was a little worried. I brought you here to be vice president, not to work yourself to death. I rolled my eyes at him. How else are we going to get Mr. Johnson's company listed without working ourselves to death? A month later, I successfully secured a major project in Sherwood, and the branch officially established a firm foothold there. Marcus Johnson specially organized a celebration party for me. At the bar, I boredly swirled my drink. I never liked drinking. I just felt it could briefly numb my nerves. Marcus Johnson saw me sitting alone in a corner and came over, putting an arm around my shoulder. I brought someone here for you to meet today. Before I could react, a man in his 60s walked towards me, bowing subserviently, his face eager to please. I narrowed my eyes at him, finding him very familiar but unable to place where I'd seen him before. Marcus Johnson pointed at me and said, "This is our CEO, Ryan. Go say hello." The man raised a glass of wine and bowed as he raised it to me. "Mr. Ryan, hello. I am Richard Miller of the Miller Group." It was then that I realized Dylan's features, upon closer inspection, bore a strong resemblance to his. No wonder I had felt a sense of familiarity earlier. Marcus Johnson was making suggestive glances at me from the side, but I ignored him. Richard Miller said with a hint of pleading, "Mr. Ryan, the contract you just signed is something our Miller Group has been pursuing for a long time. Without this order, our company would surely collapse. Could I beg you to be merciful, and let us have it this once? I know you started your career in Fairview City. We are all from the same hometown. Could you please help us out?" I feigned surprise. "Mr. Miller, you're also from Fairview City. Then do you know Dylan?" "We are acquainted." Richard Miller became excited. Yes, he's my son. I never imagined he'd know such a capable Mr. Ryan. This is wonderful." I smiled, swirling the wine in my glass. "However, it's precisely because of him that I snatched this deal. He needs to bear the consequences of his actions. As long as Dylan is part of the Miller family, I can guarantee that the Miller Group will receive no orders." Richard Miller's face stiffened. After a long silence, he looked up at me, a determined look in his eyes. "Mr. Ryan, I understand what you mean. Don't worry, I will do as you say. I only ask that you go easy on the Miller Group." Richard Miller drained the wine in his glass, placed the glass heavily on the table, and walked away without looking back. After he left, I asked Marcus Johnson, "Did you bring him here?" He nodded. "We've known each other for so long. Don't you think I know what's on your mind? You fought tooth and nail for this deal, wasn't it, to cut off the Miller Group's revenue stream? Since you've done it, you need to make him realize. Let Richard Miller weigh the pros and cons, and only then will that scoundrel Dylan learn his lesson." Marcus Johnson was right. I did it to teach the Miller family a lesson. Now was a crucial moment for the Miller family to select an heir. With my actions, Dylan would lose any chance of inheritance. No one would sit by and watch their hard-earned empire be ruined by a good-for-nothing illegitimate son. I wondered how Dylan would treat Chloe when he heard this devastating news. Marcus Johnson couldn't stand to see me buried in work every day, fearing I'd make myself sick, so he introduced me to 7 or 8 potential girlfriends. At first, I firmly refused, but I couldn't resist his persistent coaxing and eventually agreed to meet one. We met at a coffee shop. To show respect, I dressed myself neatly. Marcus Johnson said she was an alumna from our college, but I really didn't have any recollection of her. The girl had already arrived, and was sitting by the window. She saw me and gave a playful smile, revealing her canine teeth. "Senior Ryan, hello, we meet again." I stared at her for a long time, before finally remembering that we had both been members of the debate club back then. She was a year younger than me. I had left the club in my junior year because of academic pressure. All things considered, we had only interacted for a year, so it was no wonder I didn't remember her. Grace ordered me a lemonade. "Marcus said you've been working overtime recently, and probably drink a lot of coffee, so I took the liberty of ordering you a lemonade." I felt a pang in my heart. Before, I had only cared for Chloe in such meticulous detail. It turned out I could also be cared for in this way. Grace was a chatterbox, but fortunately, she kept talking, which kept the atmosphere from becoming awkward. She said she had a deep impression of me because once during a debate, I single-handedly defeated the opposing team with my words, leaving their debaters completely overwhelmed. She also said my college grades were excellent, and that I had lent her a notebook once, which she still kept. She talked about many things, but she never mentioned Chloe. We talked for a long time, and I realized that in her eyes, I was such a shining person. Chloe said I was long-winded, but in Grace's eyes, I was considerate and thoughtful. Chloe said I was a tech guy, lacking romance, but Grace said I had strong logical thinking and was dependable. Chloe said I was dull and quiet, but Grace said I was calm and profound. It was true that different people saw different versions of you. When someone doesn't love you, even your breathing is wrong. We were having such a good time, talking that we didn't even notice Chloe standing outside the window for a long time. Outside the door, Chloe tugged at my arm, her eyes red from crying. "Ryan, I was wrong. I never wanted to leave you. Dylan and I are innocent. We didn't do anything. Please believe me, okay? Since you left, I realized how good you were to me. You squeezed toothpaste for me every morning, made me breakfast, absorbed my bad moods. And the Chloe group, it's nothing without you, I'm almost at my breaking point. I know you blame me for the miscarriage, can we have another child? We can have as many as you like, a boy like you, a girl like me, don't you love children the most? See? She knew my preferences perfectly, yet when faced with a choice, she unhesitatingly disregarded me. Hearing her words, I felt nothing. I had thought I hated her, but when she cried and begged for my forgiveness, there wasn't a ripple of emotion in my heart. I understood that I truly no longer loved her. I coldly pried her hand away. Where's Dylan? Does he know you came to find me? Or are you getting married soon, and you are coming back to me to fulfill your fantasy? Chloe was taken aback by my words. She stammered, he and I aren't getting married. He was kicked out of the Miller family. I thought Chloe would go home after meeting with rejection from me, but I didn't expect her to be so extreme. Late that night, I suddenly received a call from the hospital. Chloe had attempted suicide. My number was the only contact in her phone, so the hospital could only reach me. Although I had no feelings left for her, I couldn't stand by and watch a life fade away before my eyes. After thinking it over, I decided to send Grace a message, explaining the situation. When I arrived at the hospital, Chloe was already lying in the ward, her wrist wrapped in thick gauze, the wound still seeping blood. She saw me, and tears welled up in her eyes. Ryan, I truly don't know how to live without you. Back then, I bought you for $500. Now, I'll give you the entire Chloe family business, okay? Just don't leave me. I didn't speak, instead making her a warm drink. Drink some warm water, you've lost a lot of blood. She stubbornly turned her head away. If you don't agree, I won't drink it. I sighed and placed the cup by the bed. I've left the water here, if you want to drink it. Get up and have it yourself. You can threaten me once, but do you intend to threaten me for a lifetime? I'm telling you again, Chloe, we are not possible. If you keep using this method, you are only damaging your own dignity. You need to have some self-respect. Just then, Grace arrived. I nodded to her, then looked at Chloe and said, my girlfriend is here to pick me up. If you are not feeling well, call the doctor. I resolutely walked out of the room, ignoring Chloe's barely suppressed sobs. On the way, Grace seemed a little worried, leaving her alone at the hospital. Will she be okay? I shook my head. No, she won't. Do you think she's truly had a change of heart? It's just that life isn't going her way now, and she misses how well I treated her. At her core, she's a selfish person. Any self-harming behavior is just to force my compliance. It doesn't matter if I'm willing, only if she is. There aren't that many sudden epiphanies, or rekindled relationships in the world. It's just circling around, only to find that the easiest person to fool was the one from the beginning. Of course, I knew she and Dylan weren't getting married. After Richard Miller left me last time, he found out every single one of Dylan's dirty deeds over the years. In a fit of rage, he kicked Dylan out of the house. Left with no choice, Dylan could only turn to Chloe, helping her manage the Chloe group, but he was used to living a life of indulgence and partying. He had no ability to run a company. Within a month, the Chloe group's contracts fell through one after another. Chloe panicked and started blaming Dylan for his incompetence. Things I could resolve with a snap of my fingers were so difficult for Dylan, but she never considered that every problem I solved at the Chloe group was not as simple as a snap of the fingers. She turned a blind eye to the sleepless nights I endured and the effort and dedication I poured in. Their conflict reached a breaking point. After a month at the Chloe group, Dylan ran off with the company's last remaining funds and vanished. When Chloe found him, he was singing with beautiful women draped over him, in a private room. Chloe cried and asked him why he did it. She had loved him her entire youth. Dylan, however, laughed at her foolishness. Who would love a worthless woman? If you are useful to me, I'll love you. If you are not, I'll naturally love someone else. And so, Chloe came to me. Despondent, she took out the shredded bill from her bag, now completely taped back together, and carefully handed it to me. Ryan, please give me another chance, okay? Let's start over. I took a piece of the bill from her hand and looked at it. I had shredded it quite thoroughly. She had pieced them together, bit by bit. It must have taken a tremendous amount of effort. Chloe continued, I spent 3 days and nights piecing them together. Ryan, let us be like these bills and mend our broken relationship, okay? I placed the bill back in her hand, and then glanced at Grace, who was looking uneasy through the glass window. There's no such thing as a perfectly rekindled relationship in this world. Either the circle is never complete, or there was never a whole mirror to begin with. I'm taking her home now. Please be careful on your way back. I waved to Grace, and she bounced over to me. On the way, Grace tentatively asked me, "It's so late. Are you sure you are okay with her going back alone?" I shrugged. There are so many single women on the streets. I can't possibly take every one of them home. Grace understood and hummed a cheerful song from the passenger seat. One time at a company gathering, I ran into Dylan. He was being plied with drinks by a wealthy older woman at the bar. The moment he saw me, he froze. The woman, displeased, slapped him hard several times and then poured a glass of wine into his mouth. It seemed he had finally found the kept man life he'd always dreamed of. I wished him success. Grace and I were getting married. I hadn't expected her to propose to me. It made me, a grown man, a little embarrassed. I had actually planned to propose to her and surprise her after the project was completed. When I took her out to relax and clear her head, I hadn't expected her to be so impatient. It didn't matter. I would surprise her every day from now on. When you love the right person, every day feels like Valentine's Day. On our wedding day, Grace was getting ready backstage. As I was greeting guests in the front hall, I received a letter. It was from Chloe. "Ryan, I finally understand that I completely lost you. People are always insatiable. When you were by my side, I took your thoughtfulness for granted and turned to chase after other thrills. But I forgot that thrills are just spices in life. The most important things in life are the sense of security and stability you gave me. It's just that I realized this truth too late. Ryan, I wish you happiness. I will certainly be happy." Epilogue. Close perspective. My name is Chloe. When I was 8 years old, a seemingly insignificant act of mine made a boy remember me for 18 years. When his world revolved around me, I lost him. After breaking up with Ryan, I returned to Fairview City. Without Ryan, the Chloe group completely collapsed. I could only declare bankruptcy and barely scrape by with the little money I had left. I went to many places: the small village where Ryan and I first met, and the college campus, where we spent our university years together. I wanted to find the past that belonged to Ryan and me, but things had changed, and people were no longer the same. The memories were gone. I lay on a bench on campus and had a dream. In the dream, I was back in that year when I was 8, with Ryan kneeling naked under the scorching sun. I took $500 from my pocket and handed them to his stepmother. I took Ryan's hand and walked until we were 20 years old. Ryan liked to frown, and I told him he didn't look good when he frowned. I wanted him to always be happy. Later, we got married and had a child, a daughter, my daughter, and I often competed for Ryan's first hug. Whenever he came home, every time, he'd have to soothe the older one first, then the younger, but he never tired of it. The chill set in, and the dream ended. I wrapped my coat tighter around me. The rest of this path, I would have to walk alone. My name is Grace, and in my freshman year, I joined the school's debate club and met Ryan. Back then, he was incredibly busy, studying at the library, working part-time whenever he could, and always trying to please his then-girlfriend, Chloe. Chloe was always lukewarm towards him, but he never tired of trying. During a school-organized debate competition, Ryan, usually a quiet person, fiercely out-debated everyone and won the match. I don't remember the details of that debate. I just remember Ryan shining. Later, I learned what it meant to be smitten, knowing he had a girlfriend. I didn't dare reveal my feelings. So, despite being an art major, I found an excuse to borrow his management notes. Looking back, it was a truly transparent act. He never asked for the notebook back. Perhaps he forgot, but I held onto it all these years. Later, I heard from Marcus Johnson that Ryan and his girlfriend broke up, and he moved back to Collingwood. I realized this was my chance, and I couldn't afford to miss it. It took a lot of pleading with Marcus Johnson before he finally agreed to set up a meal for Ryan and me. To my surprise, he didn't remember me at all, but that was fine. Our story was just beginning.